Hi, everybody. I'm Kraig Kann. Right now, on this edition of Tracks to Success, an edge of your seat interview with a man whose job is to put people in seats at the biggest events in sports and entertainment. You might not know him, but if you've been to an arena, a theater, or a stadium, a concert, a championship sporting event, his work has touched you. His name is Jeff Ianello. Years in the NBA, and now Executive Vice President, the head of sales for Seat Geek, a company transforming the way you buy and sell tickets. His inspiring story and what he says is his ticket to success starts now.
Welcome to Tracks to Success. This is the podcast that brings you inspiring people and their inspiring stories, how they found their way to the top, and how their path can help you do the same. Here's your host, network broadcaster, C-suite executive, best-selling author, speaker, and entrepreneur, Kraig Kann.
Jeff, it's really a pleasure to have you. Thanks so much for the time. I hope you're doing great.
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me, Kraig. It's good to see you always.
Always good to see you. Let's begin with the title, okay? Senior Vice President at Seat Geek. You are the head of sales in all of North America, okay? Head of sales, all of North America. Do you ever spend time celebrating that? A lot of people don't. Do you celebrate your success?
I do. My belief is that there needs to be a strong balance of celebration and humility along the way. And when I just clipped over my 9th year anniversary at Seat Geek, which is kind of pinch yourself crazy. You have large portions of your life dedicated to something. And you see how the rest of your life really fits in there. You fit around that. And I told somebody yesterday at the Cowboys game, who's a client. I went up there and they played the Ravens, who's also a client. That we've achieved way more than I would have thought when I joined from the NBA, but it's been way harder than I thought, way harder. So I try to do things to keep humble. Even if I walk to the fitness center today back, self-talk around humility because of where I'm at and the blessings I have, but also where I came from. Same thing with SeatGeek. I try to focus on the wins and be happy, but I also keep mementos and trophies of the losses to stay humble. And there's been a lot of losses as well.
All right, we'll talk about some of those failures, if you will, the losses, as you say, but also the successes. What's the reason in your mind as you take those walks and have quiet moments, the reason for your success? What's your differentiator?
So it's a team effort. There's a lot that goes into making the cake at SeatGeek, but my background is in ticketing. I started as a ticket sales rep. I led an organization when I was at the Phoenix Suns for all of ticketing, premium, service, season tickets groups, the whole shebang. I was at the NBA, and ticketing has historically not been an industry or a space that has been great, right? Most people would say ticketing kind of sucks. I mean, when you look at the world today, you could see that other than China and TikTok, seemingly ticketing is the only thing that brings together Republicans and Democrats in Congress. Based on what's happened last year, there's a large process going on in this space as well. And I dedicated my entire life to ticketing. And when I met Russ and Jack, who are our two founders, they're not from the sports or live entertainment space. They're coders, best friends from Boston, and they were coding in a coffee shop and said, man, this should be a lot easier to buy tickets. And a lot of the VCs, when they brought that idea to them, that were the money behind some of the most iconic companies in the world, they're like, yeah, this needs disruption. This needs something for the consumer and the enterprise space that's better. And I didn't want to look back in life and go, you know what, what if something I dedicated to, if I put into it, what if we can make this great and we can make it inspiring and we can bring a lot of outside entrepreneurs in? And that's the mindset that permeates throughout SeatGeek. It's a DNA of folks that is a pure tech play, a technology company that does ticketing versus some other company that is a live events owner or a concert promoter or a league that decided They want to be in this space because of their P&L. That DNA starts it, and then native, full featured, just like you use everything else in your life, whether it's paying a babysitter on Venmo or buying a Tesla online or ordering groceries, you get a full featured, easy utility experience. And then really a focus on personalization and data. Those are the three things that I believe separate us. But it's really the DNA. We believe, we believe, we believe.
So I have to believe that you believe in yourself. So let's go way back and let's personalize you. All right. Let's put the company aside for a second, talk about your career. You went to UMass, but was sports and entertainment, this whole idea that you would make that your life, something that you always aspired to be in? Was that, oh, I'm going there?
I bought into this idea growing up as a teenager that, hey, you do what you love. And I never really had a discernible skill. I wasn't great at math. I couldn't fix a car. I wasn't very good with my hands on anything. And I was a mediocre high school basketball player who blossomed to 5'10" and a half. But I watched Sports Center constantly. And I loved being around sports. And I loved the stories that came out of it and the perseverance that came with some of those stories. And I followed that with do what you love. And I was fortunate to be able to get into UMass. It was one of the best and is one of the best ranked sports business programs in the country. And that's where it all started. And the relationships that I developed there and what I put into it allowed me to be able to get an opportunity with the New Orleans Hornets the first year they moved from Charlotte. No one's gonna understand this whole New Orleans Pelicans Hornets thing in 100 years, but they had just moved from Charlotte, and a professor, a guy named Dr. Bill Sutton, who's become like a second father to me. He was a former UMass professor, current UMass professor, a guy named Dr. Jay Gladden at the time, introduced me, said, hey, I was doing a part-time job in Amherst. I was telemarketing for extra beer money and my senior year, and said, you seem to really like this. You should try sales. And that was my first job, and things really took off from there. But it started with a passion for sports.
Are you good at selling yourself? Because you've had a nice career, to say the very least. Are you good at selling yourself? Are you comfortable with that? Because a lot of people are not.
I don't think of it like that. I don't think of selling myself. One of my core values is authenticity. Another one of my core values is hard work. I believe in learning and growth. And if I put into it and I develop skill set mastery, skills pay the bills. So if you're authentic in what you do, you deliver purpose in everything that you do in life, and you continue to grow your skill set, people will be attracted to that. And I never thought about it like it's a forced selling myself deal. There takes courage to have conversations. It takes courage to step into the arena. Most people won't step into the arena. But most people don't do sales. It takes courage to show up sometimes. But I never look at it as a forced thing. I believe in what I do throughout. I believe in the mission, and I believe in who I am and my identity. And that seems to have been appealing to people along the way. And it's helped me with my relationships in the space and also in delivering results for the companies that I've worked for.
Okay, let's talk about that a little bit more for a second. A lot of people are very bullish on their skill set. They believe they add value. They think they're very good at something. But yet when push comes to shove, not everybody will bet on themselves. They just won't. They are humble, or they're nervous, or they're afraid to put themselves out there. You haven't been that person.
No, I mean, most people play scared. I mean, I see this right now when we go sell, right? Like it seems to be there's an obvious need in this space, and I get it, right? People that have developed their career to a certain level, they start thinking about the tribe that they belong to or the what ifs in there, and then they make decisions from a place of fear or safety. For me, I've always been somebody who, and I've been somebody who in recent years I've done a good job of labeling and identifying my mission and what I believe in and what I stand for. That challenges the status quo, tries to raise the bar on whatever it is that I'm doing, whether it's relationship, career, health. And the reason I was able to grow in Phoenix is because I was somebody who looked at each area of the business, whether it's sales rep development or how we go to market and selling, leveraging technology. And I tried to, if things checked out and we had a really good discipline in being able to vet processes, like go for it and make it happen. And when I left the NBA, most people thought I was quote crazy. Like people say it now, like you left Teambo at the NBA and you're going where? Seat Geek? And I did it. I made that decision in the hospital when my second daughter was being born. And I had vetted it out for 6 weeks. I was having a conversation with myself about why I shouldn't do it. And then at the end of the day, there was really no reason not to do it other than my own fears and for safety reasons. And I decided to take the plunge and go for it.
Amazing, because that's where I was going to go next. Okay, for people who need to know your journey, you talked about New Orleans / Charlotte, that whole thing. Okay, time there. Phoenix Suns as well, NBA, the league, working for the league, and why leave the NBA? Right? You kind of answered that. In that process of being able to take that leap, that risk, if you will, what did you learn about yourself that other people could learn from you and that decision?
Bet on yourself. So that's the first one, right? Understand that everything that you've put in, like there's a marketplace for you out there. If you believe in your skill set, your ability to hustle, and you're putting yourself with the correct people with the right idea. I mean, that was a big part of it as well, is the people that run Seat Geek, the people that are around me. They help make me great. They make me successful. The full vetting, it's situation, people, your own skill set. And then if you vet it out and it checks the box, you don't need to be scared, right? You've done the work already. And it's just about going forward as part of your journey. Now, I've been jumped around jobs. I was at the Suns for 11 years, at the NBA for 2 years. That chapter of my career was 13 years. I've been here for 9. And, it's because I have confidence that I bring value to the marketplace. Our idea is really good. Our product's very good. And the people that surround us, we lift each other up and through the good times and the bad times. My advice to people is like, bet on yourself. Like you've done the work already and take that plunge. That cushion of others around you, like you don't need it. You don't need others to prop you up. They at some point took the risk in their professions as well. You can do it too. You got to do the homework.
A quick minute to welcome a partner to the podcast and tell you about a great deal just for you. Here's a question. Do you wear hats? Of course you do. Then you need to know about Ahead. Ahead doesn't follow the trends, they set them, providing the best in headwear, styles, fabrications, and ornamentations for 25 years. And by listening to this podcast, you get a chance to save big. Visit aheadusashop.com and use the code TTS, that's Tracks to Success, to receive 20% off your order. That's aheadusashop.com and use the exclusive code TTS, 20% off, just for listening. We're talking with Jeff Ianello, head of sales North America at Seat Geek. Cool job. And we all need something like that. So we just talked about betting on yourself and all of that. I tell people we're all in sales. I'm not the first to ever say that. I think a lot of people don't realize that they're constantly selling something, whether it be an idea or a program that they're in charge of, but they also do need to be able to sell themselves in some way or another. You've obviously interviewed people and brought people on board to your team. So what is it that people need to sell? You talked about authenticity before. I know people, that's a buzzword, but what do people need to sell to achieve today?
So in sales, and there's been many great books documented on it. My good friend Chad Estes and Ryan Estes just released the book Prepare for Impact that I think could help all sellers, and specifically people that are starting on that journey of selling. Mm-hmm. My belief in my core belief in selling is that you have to stand for something. So it's been said that, Martin Luther King, I think Simon Sinek said it. It was I believe I have the dreams. I have a dream speech. It wasn't I have a plan speech. So you have to have a belief and an authenticity in what you do. My belief is that the modern salesperson, with all of the information available on the internet and available to them, and everybody being as busy as ever, you have to come in with a strong perspective on the space. So a strong belief, a strong perspective that there's a problem and that you have a solution to solve that problem. And then your product needs to have differentiation. You need to have a plan to be able to take them into the future. So it's like, here's the problem in the space. here's the future. We've already thought about it. And here's why it's important to you. Here's the data points. Here's the roadmap to get there. Then if you believe in that future, here's why SeatGeek, or here's why whatever you're selling, here's the 1, 2, 5 things of why we're the best company that can take you to that place. We're the vehicle that takes you to that place. And I think that's a great roadmap for selling. Okay. If somebody comes in and is just snake oil salesperson, they're just there for a job, they don't really believe in it, that human connection that people buy from people, that connection is gone. So I want to see somebody who comes in and really believes in it, has an energy and a passion for what they do. Then tell me why I should be listening. Tell me what problem I have. I might not even know I have the problem yet. The problem is coming. Then tell me where that magical future is. Tell me where Shangri-La is. And I'm like, okay, now I'm in. But why you? Why should you take me there? Why not some other company? And that's where you have the ability to go forward and do it. So that would be my advice. If that framework has worked really well for me in everything that I've been doing, how I teach it, and I believe it's a framework that's tried and true no matter what you're selling.
So over my shoulder is a green shoe. If you follow me, if you follow my organization, and I do my workshops and my talks and my executive coaching one-on-one stuff, that's what we do. That green shoe stands for something. You kind of have to go through the program to figure out what that is. But the key tied to it is standing out, differentiation. SeatGeek's not alone in your market space, right? You got StubHub, you got Ticketmaster, you got all these different things. It was founded in what, 2009? Because there weren't a lot of apps, right? I mean, so immediately you had to figure out, how are we going to disrupt? You use that word, and I'm going to use it again later. But what was that key differentiator, if you could put that into 30 seconds, that stood out for SeatGeek, or that you tried to put out there?
Yeah, one, I'd say you're incorrect. We are alone in this space. So that's the first piece, right? Like we are. It is a failed state. Ticketing is a failed state. Now, failed means different things to different people. Like, my belief is that you have the top 10 moments of your life, go through them. And I'm sure you, with your background, you will hit them as well. Whether it's relationships or kids or family, you won't go very far down that top 10 list until it's a person you love at a sporting event or concert or theater. And it's like one of the best moments of your life. For me, it was my dad and 2 best friends at Derek Jeter's last game at Yankee Stadium. That's the magic that sports and entertainment brings together. Yet ticketing has been this like old, stodgy place that frustrates people. You almost have to go to your desktop to buy tickets, most people would say nowadays, because it's so frustrating. Like, that has been everybody in the space. And like, whether that's the main player in the sports space or a main player in the theater space or concert space, like, to me, it's a bunch of legacy technology that has been propped up by music and change reverse operators that have lowered the bar. They've lowered the bar for everybody else. SeatGeek is coming with a different DNA to raise the bar. That's why we are different. And it takes somebody. We are the one. Everybody knows there's a problem, but we're the one that has taken the entertainment in the future. We've taken the space in the future. We just announced today Utah Hockey Club, which is our 19th major team. No other ticketing company in the last decade has signed one other than the main player in this space, the main legacy company in major pro sports. Not one, right? So we are unlike anybody else. Everybody's in the group, and we are separate. That's how I view it.
All right. There are some people out
sorry,
there.
That was more than 30 seconds. I might have
That's
to,
all right.
a little bit verbose.
That's all right. There are a lot of people out there. Now I'm going to play the devil's advocate. I'm going to speak for public and say, you know what? Yeah, super easy. Got my tickets. Can't wait to go. Man, the fees I just spent. I mean, this is crazy. I want it the old way, where I could just go direct and I don't have to pay all these fees. What do you say to them?
There's legislation now out there that is addressing this. We're supportive of an all-in model of legislation for fees, as long as everybody is on the even playing ground. It's reasonable to feel that way, but it's kind of in a strange way. SeatGeek was a bundled all-in price very early in its existence. It just, even though people are loud about it, it doesn't perform. If you look at the data, when you see fees coming after you see the initial price, every marketplace has seen the data that it performs better when it comes later. So as long as there's transparency, and you've seen this with hotels, Airbnb, VRBO, other spaces are in the same boat. Mm-hmm. We are supportive of the legislation that changes that, and I think the argument's reasonable.
Good. You talk about doing something you love. Good segue. Let's talk about your personal love affairs. You are married to the head women's golf coach at the University of Texas. So that tells me, aside from, the love of your life, you must have a huge passion for golf.
Yeah, look. So I was a caddy all through my 8 years. I caddied at a country club called Century Country Club on Anderson Hill Road in Westchester County, New York. And I learned a lot of lessons that have taken with me throughout my career in life in caddying at an unbelievably affluent club. Was I kick myself now that I barely played growing up. I
Mm.
played here and there. I was terrible then. I'm bad now, but I have a lot of upside. So I have to deal with, how are you married to Laura Ianello and you're terrible at golf? I'm like, we don't, like, if I was married to Diana Taurasi, I wouldn't be able to make jump shots, right? Like it doesn't work that you have to actually go out there and practice, but I will be good, and I'm coming back for all those people that have said that. But I mean, the game of golf's amazing. PGA of America is one of our clients, the LPGA, which is near and dear to my heart, because when I met Laura, she was playing on tour. She had just gotten her tour card when I met her out one night in Scottsdale, and got her phone number. They didn't have the dating apps back then. And it's just, it's a really cool thing to see that we're part of the game that is part of her career and has been important to my life. And it's a special thing.
That's very cool. My sources tell me you're also, in a love affair with TV, and you're a binge watcher. Is that accurate?
I've been less so, thank goodness for me, in recent years. But I was a big movie guy growing up. I love pop culture, TV shows. The one I'm into right now is Mayor of Kingstown. So
Mm.
Paramount made Jeremy Renner amazing. I'm like halfway through season 3, but I might pop through. I'm on a flight tonight, three cities this week. So I'm on a lot of flights this week. I might knock that one out, but I do
There you
TV is
go.
so good. I love it.
Okay. Do you have a love affair with work and career, or are you a guy who you would say really balances all of that with family very well? And what advice would you give to people who might be listening or watching this, who, really struggle with that? And they feel like, I got to make my way up the ladder. I have to do whatever it takes. I got to work hard. I have this, and I'm never home, and I don't have any friend time and all that. What do you tell people?
And I'm in that area, that was my biggest area of growth, really. My belief is I was a fraud at home. I was at the I was at the peak of my professional career in 2018. I had gotten the Sports Business Journal 40 under 40. Um, in 2018, later that year we signed the Dallas Cowboys. Laura was coaching at Arizona at the time. She had won a national championship, so she one up me in that regard. And we were just piling up accounts, and from the outside, everything looked like it was great. Um, and I was failing as a human. And so, I was somebody who drew his whole identity from his career, and that's not the way. I had gained 40 pounds. It took me an hour every morning just because I had terrible sciatic pain to even get out of bed and get ready to work. I was having too many tequilas or bourbons at night. As a shitty husband, probably wasn't as good of a dad as I was, or as good of a friend I was. But hey, I was really good at work, really good. Look at me, look at my trophies. And there was a big aha moment for me in 2020 that really changed things. And it's a constant journey. There is no balance. I view it as a dance, and that dance isn't, and your identity isn't only to get these trophies, and get the treasure from your career. You're a more well-rounded person. No one's gonna look back in 100 years and go, "Oh, who was the guy at Seat Geek?" No one's gonna remember you, right? But
Mhm.
day to day, and the people you come across, they're gonna remember how you made them feel, and you're gonna ultimately have the relationships you go along. I'm fortunate that I had that aha moment, as in a car with my daughter, on a really bad day, where I decided that I need to change who I am as a person, and that's made me better. happier, healthier, but it's a struggle, right? Like you have competitive people in a career. You're trying to, be the best dad you can be, the best husband you can be, a good friend, and it's not a balance. It's a dance. And if I believe I've hit a destination, I've failed. There is no destination. The journey is the destination. And that's I tell everybody who's trying to growth is not only job. It's part of it. And at certain seasons of your life, you have to put more energy and effort into it. That's not life. And that's not getting a trophy in what you do is not going to make you happy. And it's not going to bring you to a place of joy by itself.
That aha moment probably ties to you feeling a bit of failure in your life. You talked about failures before, or losses, as I believe you said. What influenced you more, or what has influenced you more to be a leader, to be the head of sales in North America? Is it the losses, or is it somebody that was a true mentor that helped you along the way?
You have to have an edge. Where I was living was all edge. It was all MF all the time. I'm coming to get you. And like that dude's a good dude at work. Like he can go get it. And he's tough as hell. But he's a bad dude everywhere else. Not the right person everywhere else, right? So it's about pulling from different versions of yourself to show up with that version when you need it. And I can still show up with that version when I need it. But it's if I bring him home, or like, and even you even hear people like David Goggins, he has different names for different versions of himself in a more intense way than I do. But like it is both. You have to be more well-rounded. My aha moment, I'll share it with you. I don't mind. It was, I think you remember 2020, there was this little pandemic thing happening in the world. There was nobody going to sporting events. If you remember, tough time to be in live events. We had built later that year, we had built technology where you were going to sit 6 feet apart, and different states had different rules. But our biggest client was the Dallas Cowboys then. We had worked for months and months on this technology, and it did not work. It just didn't work. We had an issue. And, some of my closest friends who were there, who I put my reputation on to go forward, they were calling me and they were frustrated. And those were the relationships I had for my entirety of my career. And I remember driving in the car with my 2 kids. At that time, they were first grade and kindergarten. And, what do you do when you have a bad day at work? You complain to a 6 and a 5-year-old. That's a real man, right? You just complain to your kids. And my first grader at the time, she struggled with a little dyslexia and reading. We try to instill things in her, like, keep trying. You could do better. And that was the message. And in the car, I said, hey, like, Daddy's going to spend a lot more time with you because I'm done. I gotta, I'm just done. Like I'm out. And she in the backseat said, Daddy, we don't quit. And that was a big moment. That was a big moment for me to kind of really change things. So, and from that point on, I said, okay, things need to change, and they don't change immediately. You can't go from running no miles to running a marathon. But at that point, that started my path forward into being a better person, which I think has made me better at work.
That comment from her probably says a lot about you and Laura as parents, to be honest, because a lot of what comes from their mouth is fed from us in some way or another. And
you're a dad, you know how it is, right? Some days you feel like you're doing great, some days you're like, I am failing. I'm failing, right? But it's just a journey. It's just the destination. One of my favorite books is The Alchemist. I think anybody should read that book. Have you read the book, Kraig?
No.
Oh, I would. Audible, it's like a 4-hour read on Audible.
And I'm a big book guy. I talk about them on this show. I've got authors that come on and
it talks about a journey of a boy through, and it talks about the boy looking for his personal legend, and it talks about treasures, and the Alchemist talks about how those that failed have been focused on the treasure. The treasure is the journey. The treasure. I was in Dallas, and I was at a conference last week. I had drinks with Chad Estes, who runs the Cowboys, who the relationship we developed. That's the treasure, right? Not winning the Cowboys, like the journey with him and Doug Dawson. That's the treasure. And if you're focused on that destination and that's the treasure, then you failed. That's not where it's.
Yeah.
In addition to hosting this podcast, Kraig leads the Kann Advisory Group, focused on elevating communication for companies and individuals. Company consulting, team and individual workshops, mind-altering virtual programs. To learn more and to find out why the Elevate workshop has been labeled the most powerful experience in leadership communication, visit cannadvisory.com. And when you do connect, mention the Tracks to Success podcast to receive your special discount. Now, back to the interview.
Talking with Jeff Ianello from Seat Geek, Vice President, Head of Sales, North America. We just talked about the journey. It's interesting because in my house, you walk in the door and I've got this sign on the wall, and I'm a guy who looks for inspiration. I want to walk out the door thinking about something, but I want to come home to something as well. And it says, there's joy in the journey. And around that sign, I've got other framed pictures of all the cities along my journey. Okay. Grew up in Chicago, went to school at Missouri. So Columbia, Missouri is there. From there to Columbus, Georgia, from there to Fort Myers and Naples, Florida, from there to Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Michigan, and from there to Orlando, where I've been since 1995. And in all of those stops along the way, I just look at those and something clicks, something sticks. I think about my greatest success there, my greatest failure there, or loss, as you say. I like that, by the way. Something I take from that, something that helped me, who mentored me, what was my legacy in that stop. I coach people on this in executive coaching and in my workshops to be able to have those building blocks along the way so that you truly know your story. All right. Story is such a big thing. Do you know your story? Are you able to share that? And how important is that to sales?
I believe authenticity is important to sales. I've mentioned that before. My personal growth has made me better because I can label now basic questions. I've hacked my Instagram and social media, so I get first not all the dopamine hits and dances and silly stuff and vacations. I get people in the personal development space talking to me or sometimes yelling at me, right? Whether it's Goggins or Chad Estes or Seth Madison or Matt Gottesman, like all these people, I see them first on there. And along that journey, I think it was either Ryan Estes or Seth Madison. One of them had a basic question for the audience in the clip. It was like, can you answer the question, who are you? And I could not answer, I got a pen and I could not pull people. I kind of got it. And there were some words. I'm like, holy shit. Who are you? What would your friends say about you? And I went back and we didn't spend time on the basics here. We don't label who we are, what we believe in. So I went through that journey as part of my growth about who I am. And who I am is I'm a dedicated father, I'm a dedicated husband, I'm a loyal friend. I'm someone who believes in growth and significance. What the mission is to challenge the status quo and raise the bar on health, wellness, career, and professional. Is to challenge people to do that, whatever it is, or challenge myself. And then my belief system, I view it I'm a movie and TV guy. I view it as almost like your shield and your sword. What do you take to battle with you every day? And what I take to battle with me, my sword, is my authenticity. It's my work ethic, and it's my ability to storytell and put our story in words. My shield, what I go to when I have troubles, is I go to discipline, I go to resilience, and I go to loyalty around the relationships that I have. And I put a lot of work into the definition of those belief systems. And I read through those things as affirmations every morning now. Or at least I try to. I have them on my phone. And I have a deep sense of identity in making sure I label who I am. So no matter what happens, good or bad, this is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. This is who I'm going to show up. I know what it is. I can label it. And it helps me in the good times, bring me back down. It helps me in the bad times. So I'm not sure if I totally answered your there, but that's how I've circled the wagons around my rebirth, so to speak.
I like where you went with it. You mentioned authenticity. Look, I share this in workshops all the time. You have to be you because everybody else is taken anyway. So you better figure out who you are. Now, it's really interesting. We could travel together or we could do a workshop together. All right. Here's why. because at the very beginning of my workshop, and I don't want to give everything away. I tend to do this in this podcast.
I
That's
think I'm
okay.
in. Sign me up.
All right, well, let's do it. Okay. But here's the thing. I start out every single time and I will bring somebody up in front of the room. And it doesn't matter if there's 30 people in the workshop, there could be a keynote where there's 400. And I'll bring somebody up and I start with this question. Here's your audience. They're right in front of you there. I want you to tell them who you are and why they should all care. Now, that goes right back to what you just said. Most people cannot answer that on speed dial. They can't do it. And it shows the importance and the value of knowing your story and knowing who you are. I don't tell them they have 5 minutes. I don't tell them they have 30 seconds. I give them nothing. Now, if they went 15, I'm going to pull them off the stage because I'm not going to have enough time for why they brought me there. But nonetheless, that's an important part of the journey, and you have to be able to do that. And so what happens is everybody else in the room, they all of a sudden start looking around, oh my gosh, and they get nervous. Why? Because they think I'm going to call them next.
Yeah.
Right. And at that time, I got their attention, which is the title of my book. Can you get their attention? Not easy to do. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to segue that into my next topic or question here. A few more before we go. Getting people's attention. All right. People don't like to give people time, but yet they're going to make time to buy a ticket and go to an event. That's why they would go online and purchase. But it can't just be another event. You probably work every day, my guess, to deliver the ticket experience, make the ticket experience better and more comfortable for the consumer. Talk about the value of experiences in today's world.
Yeah, I will come back to it. I'm so curious about the workshop and that when you bring them on stage in that question. So I'm going to flip it on you real quick, Kraig.
Okay.
You have such a bigger sample size than me who's gone through the journey as an individual. How many people do have the answer? If there's a room of 100, like how many?
No.
None.
Here's the interesting thing about it. At the end of the workshops, I'll sign books. All right. Give them an experience, something more than they thought that they were going to get. And I talk to people and I really enjoy that part of it. What happens is people will come up and go, they've been there for an hour. If it was a keynote speech, they've been there for 8 hours or 7.5. If it was my day-long workshop. And they'll say, gosh, I wish you would have called on me because I had the answer to that. I thought about it. No, at the time, you might not have. But as the day goes on, people's minds start going that. What would I say the number of people that know that? I'd say 10 to 20% max have the answer to that question. And so in the workshop, we work on that deep dive workbook. Who are you? And what your successes are, what your failures have been, what it is that you stand for, all these things that you and I are talking about. That's why we need to work together. So anyway, that's the answer to that. So let's talk about experiences.
I'll answer your question. So I heard this from a team president a couple of weeks ago when we were in meeting and doing a workshop with him. He talked about, let's not even talk about it as a ticket. Let's talk about this as experiences. The ticket just almost like a passport. It allows you through the country to get there. Nobody is selling a ticket. We're selling a ticket. It's a utility. What we're trying to do is create an experience, create one of those top 10 memories of life. Mm-hmm. And really what I believe in it, what I call is we're creating fandom. We even have a group inside of Seat Geek called our fandom group, which does surveys and like this isn't an ROI, direct ROI generating activity, right? We have an entire group that is surveying fans, talking to our teams, having focus group conversations. And a lot of that talk is developing the roadmap that we then go to the engineers and we build the product in a simple way. And we believe that journey begins from the pre-purchase experience all the way through game day or concert day or event day, all the way post. And you would be surprised at how much angst people have and how much frustration comes from just simple ingress and egress. Like think about it, right? If you've never been to a stadium before or a venue and you're thinking about like, okay, how long is it going to take to get there? Where do I park? Yes. How do I get in? What's the time? Like it is a massive undertaking for somebody who has never done it before. I am directionally challenged. They've built GPS for someone like me. If I look at a ticket historically, when I see a gate, I go to the gate 39. I'm like, I have no idea Here's 100,000 person stadium. I have no idea what gate 39 is. Wouldn't it be great to have a button that shows me, or directions like where to enter? So that's when I talked before about native and then full featured. That's the full featured part. The full featured part is information and data and copy around guiding somebody through that journey. But it is about fandom. It is about fan experience. It's not about ticketing.
Looking for a guest speaker for your next event or annual conference? Kraig's message is inspiring and empowering. Visit kraigcanspeak.com to learn more about his topics and find out about his green shoe experience. It's a day your people will talk about long after he's gone. So visit kraigcanspeak.com and mention the Tracks to Success podcast to receive your special discount. Now, back to the show.
A few things before we wrap up here. If reaching success, this podcast is called Tracks to Success. If reaching success were a ticket and you had to pay for certain things that you needed, the most valuable things you needed to have that ticket get you to the end of the journey, to success, what would be the most important things? I know you've already said authenticity, but give me something else that everybody really needs.
Courage. It's like a failure to leap is one of the biggest challenges people have, and self-belief is one of the biggest challenges people have. I said it before, I will not be able to grow as a person, or was not able to grow until I had a deep sense of labeling identity, and then being very intentional about living that every day. So like reading a book about being a better dad. I'm also reading a book about, like, when I'm not in growth mode, it doesn't go, but you've got to be able to pull the trigger. It's not all about ingesting. You've got to be able to go out there in a reasonable way, right? Some people at the peak of their career, when they're crushing and they have a family to support, maybe that's not the right time. Maybe that's not the correct time to jump out and do something entrepreneurial. Maybe you have a financial point in time or a career point in time. But once you define that, and once you hit it, go do what you want to do. Like, go and trust yourself and work. But then you got to put the work in every day. It's not Shangri-La. No matter what you do, you got to bust your butt, and you've got to be exceptional. The word exception is in it. Like, people forget that. Exception is part of exceptional. It's about being the exception. Like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, they were the exception to the elite. Every time you level up, you've got to be the exception to what you have to do. So that's the advice I give folks. Okay. I'm going to wrap it with a word that you started with, and that word was disruptor. Disruption. I like to think of people who are the most successful being a brand. All right. I tell people, you talk about exceptional. That's what works today. Average doesn't get you there. You got to give people something better than they expected in the first place. All right. Disruption does that. We can't wait for people to take notice. We have to do things that make people take notice. So what do people need to have in their mindset to be their own disruptor, to get noticed? How do they go to work? What do they need to attack when they get there on a given day? Once I discovered the identity, then I moved towards what are these behaviors? I call them nurturing behaviors. And this is, you could even refer to them as growth, right? And you look at a tree, the nutrients go to a vine. And what I believe, the world is being polluted now by distraction and social media, and the pollution that's coming in is distraction, apathy, laziness, unhealthiness, mentally and physically. Like, making a choice to understand, what does great look like? So if I'm on this journey, I have to define, and I do this often. People look at me, go, oh, he's head of sales, he's done all these big deals. I go back to the basics very frequently and go, what will make us great at sales? What do we need to do today? What's the next step in the process? I ask very simple questions. It's been said that if you ask great questions, you'll get better answers. And you want better answers, ask better questions of yourself. Like, go into that work that day, your question, and go, okay, what does great look like today? What are the 3 or 4 things I need to do? Who is the best person to ever do what I do? What do they do? And then you don't want to copy others or live your life through others, like as a deity. But, modeling has always been great. I go back to that, Kobe Bryant, look at a lot of his moves were Michael Jordan's moves. right? I'm sure Michael got his moves there. LeBron has similar moves there, right? Modeling has always been something, and the plays have been out there. No one is recreating. Maybe a few are. No one. This isn't rocket science. Someone has been great before you. You add the best parts of those, and you'll be great in what you do every single day.
I think we just all got a ticket to some real great knowledge, a fantastic journey, and a guy who brings a whole lot to the table, not only in your industry, but to those watching and listening to this. I really appreciate the time, Jeff. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. Anytime, Kraig.
Time now for our closing segment. We call it Getting Ahead. My thoughts on helping you find your track to success. And it's brought to you by Ahead. If you're looking for the best in headwear, Ahead has you covered. From a robust collegiate collection with more than 30 universities to choose from, to styles featuring golf legends Palmer, Nicklaus, and Sorenstam, to fits for all 6 teams in the new TGL Golf League, visit AheadUSAShop.com. That's AheadUSAShop.com and use code TTS at checkout. Receive 20% off your purchase. That's AheadUSAShop.com and code TTS for 20% off. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Jeff. He's super impressive. And one of the biggest things that Jeff talks about, if you listened or watched closely, is the customer experience. We use that word. We talked about disruption too, and how to really get noticed with something. So let's talk about that for a minute. Getting ahead is a whole lot about what we do, why we do it, what we offer for a company or an organization, or what we can bring to the marketplace. Now, Jeff's focus is on the customer experience, making that better and more consumable, leaving people with an emotional feeling of positivity. That's what I want you to think about the next time you go into the office or wherever it is you work, even if you run your own business. How do I create an experience for other people? How can I disrupt and deliver something that other people haven't put into the marketplace? Those are concepts that I actually spend quite a bit of time thinking about in all that I do. So I think that's really important. I want to share a quick little story about my time at the LPGA. As Chief Communications Officer, inside our building, we talked a lot about not just having tournaments on the schedule. That wasn't going to work. We wanted to deliver experiences, something that when people brought their families or showed up to watch golf, they got something else that they could drive home with that they would remember for a long, long time. So in your time at work, at the office, can you do that in a given day so that when you leave, you feel good about something that was different and unique, and other people who will consume it, could even be team members or people on the outside of your organization that will consume what it is you're doing, will have that emotional feeling. That's what we want to try to deliver. So think about that. Think about experiences. Think about disrupting and creating positivity. Do that, and your tracks to success will be a whole lot easier. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'm Kraig Kann. Until next time, let's stay connected.
Don't forget to subscribe to the show for more great interviews and Kraig's thoughts on reaching your highest personal and professional summit. Find it wherever you get your podcasts and on the Kraig Kann YouTube channel and KraigCannSpeak.com.